In this lecture, we will be talking about the segments or the proglottids of TAENIA solium. So students, this was the very last diagram that we had discussed in the very last lecture. So that was the prostellum, so the central plate on which these are the hooks which are embedded in two rows on this particular prostellum, and we had 4 suckers. So this is one of the sucker. So we had 4 suckers present in TAENIA solium. Now after this particular slide, now we are going further for the body segments. Now students, these are the different types of body segments or proglottids of TAENIA solium. So if you see the very first, the lower part of the slide, so you can very well see this is the presence of scolex. So this is the scolex part of TAENIA solium. Then we had a small neck. So here we have the neck, which is a single segment structure, which is also called as the zone of division, zone of multiplication. So in the previous lecture we had discussed that this neck is resulting into the formation of different proglottid types. So this neck is responsible for the formation of whole body of TAENIA solium. Now if we take the third part after neck, that is the strobila. So strobila, it has got 3 types of proglottids. So these are the 3 types. So if we take the very first type, which is the immature proglottids. So as I have told you in the earlier lecture, that immature proglottids, they are lacking any kind of testes or ovaries. So they are reproductively immature. So that's why they are called as immature proglottids. Now secondly, if we take the second kind of proglottids, they are the mature proglottids. Now students, these are the proglottids which are first of all mature with the formation of testes, and then they mature with the formation of ovaries. So we had 2 categories of mature proglottids. First are the male matures, second are the hermaphrodite matures. Now third type, if I take the third type of proglottids, these are the gravid proglottids. So gravid proglottids are the old proglottids that are present at the very end of the body, and these proglottids, they are non-productive, as they don't have any kind of testes or ovaries. All the testes and ovaries of mature proglottids, they diminish, they are reduced. So that's why they form the gravid proglottids. So gravid proglottids are the old proglottids. So we'll be taking up the structures of these proglottids one by one. But first of all, if you take the basic structure of these 3 kinds of proglottids, you can very well see that immature proglottids, they are broader than long. So if I take this part of the body of the TAENIA, if you see these proglottids, these are broader than long. So that means they don't have any kind of length, but they are broader. If you take mature proglottids, they are squarish in nature. So they are squarish. So if I draw one immature, first of all, proglottid, so it will be longer than broader. And if I make one mature proglottid, it will be just like a square. And if I make a gravid proglottid, it will be longer than its width. So that means they will be longer than their breadth. So this is the morphological difference in between these three types of proglottids. So if you see a TAENIA solium, you can very well define that this is an immature proglottid, this is a mature, and this is a gravid proglottid. Now, students, now we have to go with the mature proglottids. Now, why mature? Because immatures, they don't have any kind of reproductive organs, so we don't need to study their internal structures. As they are only and only nourishing, they are taking nourishment from the body of the host simply by diffusion. So there is no mouth as such in TAENIA. So that's why the immatures, they take in the nutrition from the host and they grow, and they tend to become the mature proglottids by the time. So now we are concerned with the mature ones and the gravid ones. So now I am taking up a structure of a hermaphrodite mature proglottid which has developed ovary and the testes. So students, this is a mature proglottid. So this is a very, very important structure as per your examinations are concerned. So you may get a question on like reproductive system, or you can get a question on male reproductive system of TAENIA solium only, or you can get a question on female reproductive system. So now we start with the, first of all, we start with the reproductive system of TAENIA. As TAENIA has got both the ovaries and the testes in same individual, so that's why we call it as a hermaphrodite animal. So hermaphrodite means it is containing the male and the female genital parts in the same individual. So here protandry condition is also present. Protandry refers to the formation of the testes first, and then the ovaries are developed. So we all know that we have the male matures first, then we have the hermaphrodite matures. So students, this is a hermaphrodite mature segment. So as you can well see, this is a kind of squarish segment. This is a kind of a square segment. So that's why it is a mature segment. If it was like broader than long, then it will be a immature proglottid. So if it is longer than broad, then it will be a old proglottid, gravid proglottid. So we should start with the male reproductive first, male reproductive system. So now we are going with the male reproductive system. So number one, we have the testes. So students, if I zoom in into this particular diagram, you can very well see we have a number of scattered testes. So all these small ball-like structures, these are all testes. We have these testes on both the sides. So these are all testes which are scattered inside the body or inside the mature proglottid. So they are numerous in number, they are small in size, they are oval, they are round in structure, they are found scattered inside this mature proglottid. So you have a number of testes, and what they do, their function is to produce the sperms, to produce the spermatozoa. So what happens, the second part is the vas efferentia. So students, this is the tube-like structures. So here you can well see we have labeled the vas efferentia. So these are the tubes. If you see this particular tube, this is the vas efferens. Vas efferens means these are the vas efferens tubes. So these collect the sperms from the testes. So we have got numerous vasa efferentia. Vasa efferentia is a plural name, and if you have to go for single duct, it is vas efferens. So students, we have got number of vasa efferentia. So they are fine canals, and they are coming from each of the testes, and they join together to form large vas deferens. So efferens, they join to form the deferens. So we have got this particular structure. We have labeled it as vas deferens. So this is a vas deferens. So vasa efferentia, they join to form the vas deferens. This is the third part. And now we have the fourth part. What is the fourth part of male reproductive system? And this is the cirrus. So we have labeled it here. This is the cirrus. Now this cirrus is a muscular organ, and it will inject the sperms into the female genital pore, which will be discussed later on in the female reproductive system. So it is the sperm exchanging organ present. So that is the number fourth part of the male reproductive system. So this is the cirrus. And next we have the genital atrium. So this is the next part, the genital atrium. Now what is genital atrium? It is, you can say, a combination of male and female ducts. They are opening into the genital atrium. So genital atrium is a kind of common pore for both the male and female reproductive tracts. So here you can well see this is the common gonopore, and this is the genital papilla. What is genital papilla? It is the outgrowth of this particular mature proglottid on which the genital atrium is present. So I'll be taking on the genital papilla later on in the next slide. So what is genital atrium? So this is a chamber in which both the male and female reproductive tracts, they open. So that was the last part of the male reproductive system. So if we go by the male reproductive system one by one, first of all we have the testes. Number two, we have the vasa efferentia. Then they join to form vas deferens. Vas deferens is opening into the cirrus. Now this cirrus is opening into the genital atrium by the male genital pore. So this is the male reproductive system of Taenia solium. Now students, if we come for the female reproductive system, the first organ in the female reproductive system is the ovary. So students, here one thing should be clearly seen, that the ovary, if you see this particular diagram, this is the ovary, and a layman will see it as there are two ovaries, but this is a single ovary. So you should be very clear that This is a single ovary with two lobes. So this ovary has got right and left lobes, and these two lobes are connected by the ovarian isthmus, and some books they write it as like ovarian bridge. So this is the bridge which is present in between these two lobes of the ovary. That means we have got only one ovary and it is bilobed. It has got left lobe and it has got the right lobe, and these two lobes they are joined by the ovarian isthmus. So that means we have got a single ovary. Now this ovary, it consists of many follicles and they are producing ova. So this ovary is modified to produce a large number of eggs, because all the parasites they need a huge number of their individuals, because parasites they need to have more and more generations which are outside the host or in the secondary host. So they tend to produce more of the eggs. So their ovaries they are modified to produce huge number of eggs. So this is the ovary, this is the very first part, and then we have the oviduct. Now again I am zooming into this part. So if you can see, ovary is giving an oviduct. So here it is labeled as oviduct. So this is the oviduct which is coming from the isthmus. So all the eggs they travel from the ovary into the center like this, and from here they come down. So they come down by the oviduct. So this part is the oviduct. So this is a pipe-like structure, and it is taking the eggs towards the lower side. Now we have the third part which is called as the ootype. So students, this is the third part. First part was the ovary, second part was the oviduct, and third part is the ootype. Now ootype is a chamber, a round chamber which is present below the oviduct, and this particular chamber is mixing three things. So first thing is the oviduct. It receives the oviduct from the top, as you can very well see, and second thing is the uterus. So if you can see, this structure is the uterus. So uterus is also received by this chamber. The third thing which is received by this chamber is the vitelline duct. So if you can see this duct, this is the vitelline duct, and it is coming from the lower side. So I'll be taking on this duct later on. So simply you remember this thing, that ootype is a round chamber and three ducts they are coming to join this particular chamber. The first duct is the oviduct coming from the ovary, second duct is the uterus, and third is the vitelline duct. Now I'll be taking up this vitelline duct and gland later on, that what are these glands and what is the vitelline duct. Now first of all we take the next part into account, and this is the vaginal tube. So you can very well see it is labeled over here. This is a vaginal tube. So this tube is going out, or you can say it is joining the genital papilla. So this is the duct which is coming up to the oviduct. So here we should make it just like this. So it is coming inside and it is joining the oviduct. So this is the vaginal duct, and it is carrying the sperms from outside, from the female genital pore to the oviduct. So this is an important duct. So it has got a you can say bag-like, small bag-like structure which is present over here, and this is the seminal receptacle. So students, that was the fourth part. First part was the ovary, second was the oviduct, third was the ootype, the round chamber, and fourth is the vaginal duct. Now number fifth, it is a very, very important organ, it is a very important gland, and this is the vitelline gland. So this particular gland, the disc-shaped gland which is present on the very lower side of the proglottid, this is the vitelline gland. And vitelline gland, it produces yolk, Y-O-L-K. So this is producing the yolk. It is also called as vitellaria. So some books they write it as vitellaria. Now this vitelline duct is coming out of the vitelline gland and it goes upwards to join the ootype. So as you can very well see, this is the particular duct which is coming up from the vitelline gland and it is joining the ootype. So that means ootype, it is joining three things we have discussed earlier. So first was the oviduct, second was the uterine canal or the uterus, and third is the vitelline duct. So these three ducts, they are joining at the ootype. Now students, the last part of the female reproductive tract is the uterus. So if you go by the whole of the diagram, the central part, this is the uterus. So it has been labeled over here. This is the uterus, and this is an elongated sac. This is a sac-like structure. It is elongated, it is cylindrical. So one thing to be noted is that the proximal part of the uterus is narrow. That means this part is narrow and the upper part is broad. So as you can see, the uterus is broad from the upper side and it is narrow at the lower side. So this uterus can be divided into two parts. The narrow part or the lower narrow part is called as the uterine duct. Uterine duct. And the broader upper part is called as the uterine expansion. So you must write these two things, uterine duct and uterine expansion. So you can very well see that the expanded part, the upper part has got the fertilized egg capsules. So we have written fertilized egg capsules. So these capsules, they gather on and they are being stored in this broader part. Now, what is the physiology? That will be taken later on. So this uterus, it receives the eggs or the fertilized eggs, and these eggs, they tend to get stored in this broader part. So this is the function of the uterus, to store the egg capsules. Now why they are called as capsules, that will be taken up in the next part of the lecture.